Welcome to the Set to Lead podcast, the online mentoring platform for emerging and current leaders. My name is Marianne Samdi, leadership coach and talent development expert, and I will be your host. Welcome to the show, Robyn.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Marianne. I'm so thrilled to be here.
You're welcome. I'm thrilled to have you too. Today, we're going to discuss how to reinforce your brand with photography. And I know you have a lot of great things to say about this topic.
Just a few things, yes.
Just a few. So I think the best place to get started is to tell the community about your career journey and how you got into personal branding.
So it's actually very interesting. I did not take the typical journey to become a photographer. I went to pharmacy school and achieved a doctorate degree. And 8 years ago, as my children were growing and my husband was traveling a lot and we didn't have family locally, my husband and I looked at each other and thought, what are we doing? We're like, this life is crazy. And so, we talked about it and he said, why don't you follow your passion? You love photography. Why don't you do something with it? So he helped me and I started a blog. And within 6 weeks, I had my first branding client. And she was a musician. Her name is Lori Rosalowski. And I did her website photos, her CD covers, things like that. And I was in my element. I thought, this is what I'm meant to be doing. I was so happy. I was so thrilled. And I absolutely loved the strategy component that was being combined with the photography. Mm-hmm. So that's really where I got my start, and my love for branding was really with that first client. When I set out to become a photographer, I wasn't sure where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do. And, as with everything in life, Marianne, there's always a journey and a process and a lot of learning experiences along the way. Yeah. And I didn't stick with branding as my niche 8 years ago. I should have, but I didn't know to do that. So it took me, 6 years to really identify the fact that that's what I was meant to be doing. And that's what I was really, really good at and where I should focus my energy. So it took me a little while to hone in on my niche, but now that I have it and I've found it, I know I'm doing exactly what I'm meant to be doing.
So there's a few things you just said I found very interesting. One, kudos for you that you have a partner that told you to follow your dreams, follow your passions.
Yes, I'm blessed, right?
Yeah, kudos for you. You're going to have to compliment your husband tonight on that. Because a lot of women don't have support out there with people who are saying, go ahead and follow your passion.
Yeah, you're right.
And the next thing that came to mind was you started off in your element. You loved working with this musician, but then you stopped. What was the aha moment that made you reverse and go back to your passion?
So it was one of those things where I wanted to make money, and I wasn't a marketer. I have this scientific brain that yet has this really profound creativity side to it. So I had a lot to learn, and I was taking every job that came my way. And that was so that I could justify, the expensive gear and having a studio space and everything else. So, along that journey, I learned every step of the way. And a lot of those people that I met doing the event photography or doing family portraiture and things like that have then come around and become professional headshot clients or even branding clients. So everything happened for a reason, and that was just part of my journey. But it was, I read a book by Pius Silva. It's called Badass Your Brand, I think is the name of it. Mm-hmm. And I read that book a couple years ago, and she talked a lot about finding your niche. And as soon as I read the first chapter of the book, I was like, oh my gosh, I know what my niche is. I know what I'm meant to be doing, because I knew I knew that when I was working with professionals and I was helping them create content that would help their clients or ideal audience engage with them and create an emotional connection so that they would, buy from them, I knew I was in my element. And so it was a couple of years ago when I read that book, and that was really my tipping point, so to speak, where I decided, and it was a hard decision because I think it's really hard to leave something that you're secure in, is making you money, you're good at it, but yet it's not fueling you the way that you want to be fueled. So it was hard to step away from that. And I still have personal or family portrait clients that I work with because I really believe that they helped me to get to where I am today. And they were part of my journey and part of my decision to do what I'm doing. So, I still have a handful of clients that I will work with because they've just been so tried and true to me. Right. Over the years, coming back every year. But for the most part, I now have transitioned and I have an assistant that's taking over those lines of business so that I can focus on that niche, personal branding that I identified a couple years ago.
Awesome. So for those out there, let them know, what's the difference between personal branding and marketing? Or is it the same thing?
No, it's not the same thing at all. So your personal brand is basically who you are. It's putting your personality into and infusing it into your business. So it's really all about who you are and how you serve others. Like, what problem do you solve for them, and why do you do what you do? How do you do what you do? And who are you serving, and what problem do you solve? Whereas marketing is more of is really getting the word out about who your brand is or what your brand is. But your brand itself is more based on who you are and why you do what you do. I always like to refer to Simon Sinek's TED Talk, The Why. And if you think of that, it's, it really helps define your personal brand and your niche, because why are you in this space that you're in? Why is it fueling you, and why do you want to help these people? So I think that why is a much bigger component of the personal brand, whereas marketing is getting the word out as to who you are, versus the why and how that is your personal brand. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. Do you think, now that you work on your personal brand and there's a face to the product or the service, you'll be more successful than someone who didn't have a personal brand?
100%. And what I have seen is, for years, I hid behind my camera in pretty pictures. I was present on social media, but nobody knew who I was. Nobody knew who Robyn was. And when I decided to become the face of my brand and put my face on the homepage of my website and, put my face in my Instagram feed and on my Facebook feed, my business grew exponentially. And I really believe it's a combination of things, because yes, I did tweak some things like search engine optimization. I started, engaging differently and things like that. But once I became the face of my brand, people were able to make an emotional connection with me. They were able to get to know me. They were able to understand my why. And I think that is really critical in how my business has transitioned and grown over the past 2 years.
Wow. What if you're uncomfortable with the camera and putting your face out there?
Do you know, this is something that I would say at least 98% of people that come to me say, I take awful pictures. I don't like to get my picture taken. I hate being in front of a camera. And this is where I tell people, and this is why personal branding is so important. And I think a lot of photographers do exactly what I did. They're showing their work. So they're not putting themselves out there as the person that is behind this incredible work, right?
Yeah.
And when people can get to know you and feel comfortable with you, they're going to feel more confident in front of the camera. And, I have this very relaxed approach, and the process begins, the first time someone reaches out to me to inquire about getting, say, a professional headshot or having a personal branding shoot, I get to know them. And, they will say to me, oh, I take awful pictures and, I'm not sure if you'll be able to work with me or make me look good. But, when I reassure them not to worry and, they can see who I am and they can see my work in combination, they become more relaxed and they also become more confident because I'm getting to know them, I'm getting to understand them, and I'm building them up in the process.
So what are some things that someone can identify from a picture? By looking at a photograph, are you trying to raise the likability bar?
Yes. So that's exactly it, Marianne. It's the know, like, and trust factor because people buy people. They don't buy products. They don't buy services. When you're talking about a service industry, they are buying the person that they have gotten to know, like, and trust. And if you go through and look at people's profiles and you see pictures of them, their eyes, will draw you in, their smiles will draw you in. You get a really good feel from a picture of what a personality is. And, you can have pictures for your personal brand because let's face it, we aren't always smiling. There are times in our day where we're, very thoughtful or, sometimes we're completely stressed out. We may not have a smile on our face, but to show that side of you as well is part of your humanity. And that also will help people connect with you that, what, okay, I see her here and she looks so smiling and approachable and welcoming, but yet she's also very thoughtful and very, into her work and her realm. And so it's that whole ability to capture the essence and the heart and soul of a person that draws the people into them. And that is mostly done, like I always say, like the eyes are the gateway to the soul. And so, that's where that emotional connection is brought together between the subject or the person in the image and the ideal client or the person who's actually looking into buying that service from that person. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. I do agree that the majority of people out there, that resonates with them. Like you said, that emotional connection that you get by seeing. At least that's a part of it.
Yes, and a lot of people are visual learners, and people, I think it's posts that have a face get 94% more engagement than posts that do not have a picture or a face. And I think that in and of itself is a very, very telling sign that, people want to see other people.
They really, really do. Have you noticed any mistakes that people actually run into that distract from sharing that right personal brand story? How are they getting it wrong?
Oh, that's a really good question. One thing that I would say people do is they tend to, there's actually a few things. One, like I said before, people will hide behind their business and not become the face of their brand. And I think the biggest mistake people make is having that fear that prevents them from putting themselves out there. When they do put themselves out there, they have to represent themselves authentically. And I have seen a lot of people on social media that they post things, but they're posting things that look exactly like somebody else's things. And unless you are true to yourself and you are authentic with who you are, your why, your how, you're not going to be able to achieve that know, like, and trust factor. So it's, somebody in your same field or your same area may be putting out this content, or they may have these type of pictures, or they may be wearing these outfits. But if those aren't true to you and who you are, and they're not going to present you authentically and truthfully with integrity to your ideal audience, that connection is going to be broken very quickly because people won't trust you.
You know, Robyn, I've had some headshots taken before. And to be quite honest, I didn't know what to do to prepare.
Mm.
I didn't know what type of wardrobe I should bring. I didn't know if there were certain colors I should be wearing for my skin tone. I didn't know about jewelry, et cetera, et cetera. Are there any tips you could give folks on how to prepare for a personal branding photography experience?
Yes, absolutely. And, you know, Marianne, when you asked me earlier, you asked a question, and I'm not sure I said everything I wanted to say, but the one thing about working with a photographer, and you were saying how people, you know, are afraid to be in front of the camera. And this is another,
People.
what's that?
Some people. It seems like a lot of people aren't afraid, but I know I'm not crazy about the camera
No,
myself.
and honestly, a lot of it is a major source of anxiety for a lot of people. I think anybody 40 and over that fit into that category. Younger people, and I think it's because of the digital age, and they're so used to having their picture taken with cameras or cell phone cameras and things like that, that they don't have the same fear. But people, you know, 40 and older are a lot more timid to be and afraid to be in front of the camera. But what I want to say is it's very important to not just look at one photographer and hire that person. Like, you want to make sure that their portfolio is the style that you want to represent your brand or your headshot.
Mm-hmm.
And you want to see what their overall service is like. You know, what are their rankings on Google, or what are their referrals and recommendations on Facebook and LinkedIn?
Mm-hmm.
You want to make sure that there's going to be a good fit, because if there's a good fit, you're going to be more relaxed in front of the camera. And asking for those tips, that's something that, in my opinion, a good photographer will provide for every client. So when someone comes into my as a lead, that's something that they're invited to go to my website and click on the link and then download the information on how to prepare for a photo shoot. And it goes from getting a good night's rest the night before, so that, you know, you can try to alleviate the bags and dark circles under the eyes, drinking plenty of water for the full week before, not getting a facial the day before, because you don't know if you could react to a product or something like that, or have red marks, or, you know, from extractions, things like that,
Right.
to what colors to wear. You know, you don't want to wear bright, bold patterns, because you want the focus to be on your eyes and your smile. So you want to be able to minimize accessories, and you want to minimize any distractions that would take away from your eyes and your face. You know, some people have skin tones that, you know, if you're darker skinned, you can wear a lot more colors than you can wear if you're pale. If you're pale, you want to, you know, avoid like a pale pink top, because it's just there's not going to be any contrast. It's just going to blend in with the skin, and, you know, your eyes aren't going to pop as much, so to speak. Blue is a very trustworthy color, and I recommend blue for a lot of people, but especially for paler skinned people with blue eyes. Darker skinned people could wear, and people with darker eyes can wear ivory. Black is a very traditional, classic, strong color. And so, you know, a lot of people can wear black, fair skinned as well as dark skinned. Any hue of blue really is good for just about anyone. And, you know, depending on the roles, responsibilities, the job that a person is doing, red is a power color. So every now and then if someone will come in, and if it's an executive, wear red, you know, show your authority. But at the same time, you don't want to be too overpowering. So, and, you know, for men, an example is, if you're in a female dominant environment, wear a pink shirt or a pink tie, because that's going to soften your appearance and make you more approachable to women. So it's little things like that I tend to recommend. And I like when people bring options, and that way we can go over them, and I can actually, because a lot of times I don't know the person that I'm going to be working with. So, you know, we'll have the initial conversation, and I'll get to know them. And if I have the opportunity, I can look them up on LinkedIn if they have a profile picture and get an idea of their skin tones and stuff. But I even tell people, you know what, text me your options and we can talk about them before you come if you're nervous about them, or just bring different options and we'll see what looks best and what is going to best represent you as a person and as your personal brand.
What are your thoughts about jewelry?
Minimal. And the reason being, you don't want anything too big or too dramatic that's going to take away from your face. Now, some people will, that's just part of who they are. They wear statement pieces all the time. Yeah. So what I usually say is, depending on the field that they're in and what they're going to be using the headshot or branding shots for, have some with and some without. But generally speaking, I recommend minimal accessories.
Now, a little while ago in one of your answers, you mentioned that the data says that younger folks are a little bit more, they feel more comfortable in front of the camera. I wanted to share with you that there's a little pet peeve that I have that I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of older folks leave their headshots from when they were 20-something. Now, when you meet them in person or online, it's a little jarring because they look a little bit different. Mm-hmm. And I've always wondered, why would you do that? Why would you now be 40 plus something and you still look good, but you're still using 20 something headshots?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it drives me crazy. I do, absolutely. And it's funny.
It really drives me crazy. And I see that a lot.
This goes back to that statement I made earlier about being your authentic self. Right. And, people will come to me and they'll say, well, can you remove all my wrinkles? No. Yes, I can. Yes, I can in Photoshop, but do I or am I going to? No, because if I remove all your wrinkles, you will have no affect, for number one. And number two, when people meet you, they aren't going to trust you because you don't look anything like what you're representing yourself as online.
Exactly.
So that is something that really, really does bother me. And one time I do a lot of posting on LinkedIn. I'll do a long post and then I do, just regular short posts as well. But I wrote an article on the importance of headshots, and especially on LinkedIn. It's a professional site, mm-hmm. Where you're representing yourself as a professional. So having a gray head on there is not going to cut it. People, a recruiter, someone looking to hire you or to interview you, they're going to scroll right past you if you don't have a good headshot. And, a woman commented and she said, well, I use the headshot I use because people aren't going to hire me. They're going to hire somebody younger if they see who I really am.
There's truth to that, Robyn.
And there is truth to that. But on the flip side of that, I really believe that if you are representing yourself as an expert in your area, and this is where, from a corporate perspective versus an entrepreneurial perspective, your personal brand comes in, mm-hmm. because you have had a journey that has allowed you to develop an expertise that nobody else has. And so when you're going up against, and there is age discrimination, and I do believe that. And I think women, and men, because I see it on both, they lose their job and they're 50 and it takes them a lot longer to find another job. Correct. But if you represent yourself as a top-notch professional, with a professional headshot that shows you care about professionalism and quality, and you have the copy to back up your expertise and really demonstrate why they should hire you, you have that opportunity to prove that. Whereas if you have a headshot from when you're, 20 years ago and you go in for an interview, they're going to be like, well, you falsely represented yourself. How can I trust you to produce good work for me? So it is, I think, somewhat of a catch-22, but I always tend to go more with being true to yourself and being authentic so that people will get to know, like, and trust you versus representing yourself as something you are no longer.
So, Robyn, there's a lot of bias in the world, unfortunately.
Oh, yeah.
I know. If you feel you have physical characteristics that you're uncomfortable with, or you think they're flaws, let's say maybe a wayward eye, crooked teeth, gray hair. What are some things you can do to accentuate your strengths opposed to your, for lack of a better word, flaws?
So first of all, if there are temporary blemishes, those can easily be removed in Photoshop. That's like a given. And that's something that, at least in my business, is standard, right? If you have a wayward eye, there are different ways that a photographer can pose you and work with you as far as angles to make that less evident. Now, you don't want to have them completely correct that in Photoshop because, like I said, when somebody goes to interview you, they think, well, that's not what they looked like, when I saw them online. Right. But the same with, gray hair. Well, you can color your hair. And then when you have the picture done, your hair is colored. And then you're going on the interview, your hair is colored. So you're representing yourself as the same person in both places. I would not recommend just, having the photographer Photoshop your hair into a different color. That's definitely feasible, but I wouldn't recommend it. If you are self-conscious about the gray hair or something like that, then, you have the option to color it. And yes, it probably will make you look younger. So then it's an advantage, right? But then you're consistent whenever you have the image taken and when you meet that person in real life.
Right.
I'm trying to think of, like, some people will have, I have one client, for example, and she has these little moles on her face. Mm-hmm. And I do remove those for her. When people meet her, she typically has makeup over them, but she also has the option of having them removed permanently. So if it's something like that can be changed and that the person actually has indicated that they want to change, then that I'm fine with removing. And I would agree with that because it's not something that is going to stay permanently on your face and represent you completely, for years to come.
At the end of the day, Robyn, like you said, you really have to be authentic and love who you are and believe that there's something in you that will resonate with someone else.
Mm-hmm. And I think you just hit the nail on the head, Marianne, because if we don't love ourselves and believe in ourselves, no one else will.
Yeah.
And it is really hard to be confident, I think. And I think it's getting harder because of everything that we see online. But we all need to realize as people that these people that are presenting themselves as perfect or that their life is just all, roses, it's not. Like, nobody's is.
Yeah.
So, I think we have to remember that, I'm trying to think of one of these influencers, who looks like they have this just magnificent life. They still have things going on in their life that aren't perfect. And at the end of the day, when they take off their makeup, they don't look that much different than we do.
No, I've seen some of those celebrities. Yeah. And you're shocked. You're like, oh, wow, she is human just like me, or he is human just like me. We all, don't start off flawless.
Right. Exactly. None of us are perfect. And I think it's really hard for us to remember that when we're seeing all these things online all day, every day. But we have to remember to give ourselves that grace to accept ourselves as who we are and love ourselves enough to trust that when we put ourselves out there, people are going to recognize that we really are amazing and we're an expert in our area and we can, achieve for them what they need us to achieve for them.
Absolutely. Robyn, the session has been really insightful. I really appreciate you coming on board today. But before we end the session, please tell the community how to follow your work and your availability.
So you can find me on my website. It's robyngrahamphotography.com, and it's Robyn spelled with a Y. I am on Twitter and Instagram as the Robyn Graham. Facebook is just Robyn Graham Photography, just like my website. I'm on Instagram more than I'm anywhere else, just because I'm a visual person and I just really love that platform. Yeah. If you visit my website, I have a download so that you can prepare for your next photo session. And you can also book a call if people have questions about personal branding or anything related to, building a personal brand that succeeds. You can schedule a free session with me. I offer free 15-minute consultations. So you can book that directly from my website as well. And I happen to be running right now a very cool special. It is an ebook on smartphone photography for business. And you can access that through my Instagram page. It's free for a short period of time, and then it will be for sale. But if you want to snag that for free, go to my Instagram profile and click the link in my bio, and you can download that.
Fabulous. Thanks for stopping by, Robyn.
Thank you for having me, Marianne. This was a real pleasure.